Hi everybody, it's Mr. Mott. What I want to do is go through the calculations that are involved in our titration experiment. Titrations are a really great way of determining the concentration of some unknown sample. And so typically in a titration, the value that is known is in our Erlenmeyer flask. And so the thing that oftentimes we'll do is that we want to find the concentration of our titrant. Remember, the titrant is just whatever liquid that we have in our burette. So so there's various units of concentration. One of the units of concentration is called molarity. We're going to get into this more, but molarity is a way of keeping track of concentration in moles per liter of solution. So we learned about percent by mass earlier in the year. Molarity is a way of keeping track of concentration with moles and bringing that idea about stoichiometry into play. So the formula that generically fits any way of keeping track of concentration that we would use would be C1V1 equals C2V2. And so C standing for concentration, molarity could be a unit of concentration that we use, and then V for volume. So the way that we would go ahead and solve something like this is that we would take sort of all the information that we know and plug it into the equation and solve for one of the unknowns. So for instance, let's say that, so again with this formula, one side of this would relate to whatever that we know for sure, and then whatever that we don't know, some unknown that we're going to solve for, would be on the other side. So for instance, let's say that we knew that the concentration of our sodium hydroxide, remember our sodium hydroxide was in the Erlenmeyer flask, let's say that we knew that to be 0.1 molar. And we knew that we put 5 milliliters of that 0.1 molar blue solution in our Erlenmeyer flask. And then when we titrated our sample, what we kept track of was how many milliliters, or the volume that we used. So let's say that we used like 8 milliliters of our yellow titrant, which was the hydrochloric acid. So let's say we used 8 milliliters of it. What we could then do is figure out what is the concentration of that hydrochloric acid. So what we would do is we divide both sides by 8 milliliters to get C1 by itself. And since we went yellow and blue plus green, I'll cancel these out in green. The numbers cancel out and the units cancel out on the left-hand side. Right-hand side, our units of milliliters cancel out. So then what we're then left with is solving for C1, which would come out to be a 0.0625 molar. And so that would be the concentration of our hydrochloric acid, which we previously didn't know in our sample. All right, so that's kind of how we would determine the concentration of our titrant and how we would proceed with any type of titration calculations. And that, again, what's possible is that it's possible that we know the value that's in our Erlenmeyer flask, or we might know this for certain. But either way, we could use this formula to solve for the concentration of some unknown. All right, thanks for watching.